Did the 3 weeks of drama live up to the hype? Is rain always necessary at Spa? Welcome to Tinfoil Helmets, your occasional spicy hot take roundup with all the latest F1 rumors, with the almost believable conspiracy theories to back them up. Everything here has been carefully researched for hours to make sure it is totally founded in logic, reason, and truth. Or not. Who knows? Is our F1 movie podcast out?
No, it's not.
No, it's not. That's foreshadowing then. So in that case, have we got anything right about the Belgian Grand Prix? Actually, did it have a real name?
It did.
Oh yeah, it was the Moët and Chandon.
The Formula One Moët Chandon Belgian Grand Prix 2025.
Isn't Spa in the Flemish part of Belgium, not the?
Yeah, but they're the minority speakers in Belgium, I believe. So
okay, that's fair.
Let's go with that. If you'd like to cancel me, please write in first. So there was some suggestions about what we might possibly be predicting. We had you thinking that Max and Oscar would duel it out.
They did in the sprint race.
True, they did. I should revise that. You should get half a yes.
Yeah, half a yes. Also, half a no.
Half a no, exactly.
Yeah.
I forgot about the sprint race, which is saying a lot.
On brand.
On brand. When I discovered it was a sprint race this weekend, I was very upset.
Again, on brand.
On brand. You suggested that Bottas will be in Alpine, and I thought this was a pretty good chance of happening, given how long they had to sort it out. But no.
No, there's some talk maybe for 2026, whatever next year is.
He should be in the Cadillac, and he should go get... Actually, there is some data that suggests it might still be coming, because he went and did 100 and something laps at the Magny Core, I think.
On his road bike or in a car?
In a car. In a Formula... He was reunited with the 2021 car, I think it was.
Oh,
and he
nice.
did 100 and something laps, and then did some social media content. So I think that's part of his prep for getting back in the car.
I noticed it's not in our between race drama, but Perez has also been very highly linked to that Cadillac seat at this point in time.
There was a sign at the airport, not the airport, at the race from one of the spectators that said, Checo, coming soon. And I'm like, please don't do that.
Did they spell it like a bank check? Because he's going to cash in and go to Cadillac? Check. Oh, what? Never mind.
Oh, no, they didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't. I get it now. Yeah.
Because I saw that, who was it, Carlos Slim or something is going to back him to go to Cadillac or something like that.
I mean, if he's going to come back, fine, whatever. Danny Rick needs to get into NASCAR, though, but that's a different conversation.
There was another thing I saw, though, where it was going to be Sergio Perez and Pato O'Ward, which would be interesting to have two Mexican drivers for a American Formula One team.
That might be a bit spicy politically.
Yes.
Speaking of other things, I suggested that Max would dominate on his home turf and wins by 30 seconds and no longer gets his contract escape hatch. No.
Well, the escape hatch looks a little bit less promising these days. But,
Indeed.
any contract can be broken for the right sum of money.
Exactly. It's all about the number of zeros you really put in the end.
I agree that there is an escape clause there and things like that, but you're telling me that, if somebody says, I want to buy out the rest of the contract for such and such amount of money, that they're not going to take that? Yeah, they take it.
Well, they need it because they have to pay Christian Horner $50 million to get him out of his contract.
Yeah, pretty much.
I also suggested, and in hindsight, the fact that I've given myself a no here, I think I'm going to have to revise it, but Ferrari was going to go very slowly because they didn't want to get DQ'd. Now, they did not go very slowly, but apparently Lewis spent almost 2/3 of the race being told by his engineer to lift and coast, and the supposition by Anthony Davidson was to make sure that they didn't get disqualified for rubbing the plank too hard. And so maybe I'm going to give myself half a yes for that.
That tends to be a theme with this Ferrari. I think we're definitely to the point of the season now where nobody is bringing upgrades anymore. I think we are kind of stuck where we are for the season. So there's still going to be some track dependence. I think the Red Bull's going to be very fast at Monza because they've shown in a low drag setup they are very quick. But overall, I think we're stuck where we are for the remainder of the season.
You remember Ferrari did get an additional suspension. They got brand new suspension this weekend.
Well, Lewis got practically a whole brand new car. The only thing he didn't change was his team.
He should try that. That might work better for him.
He did. That's why he's at Ferrari.
Indeed. This may be a long section, but shall we go into between race drama?
Yes. Why not? Let's talk about Christian Horner gets fired. It's so weird because we're doing this podcast 3 weeks after the fact because we just do it by race, and it's this has been old news at this point in time. I'm still trying to figure out if this was the right move.
Well, first off, it might be old news for us, But that's what we're paid here to do, is to make sure that those who aren't on F1 all the time can keep up, so when they go down the pub, meet their friends, meet their co-workers, they can keep on message. So yes, Christian Horner got unceremoniously removed from duties.
You're getting paid?
Emotionally.
Okay, great. Fantastic.
Okay. Yes, I don't know this is a good thing. But before we go there, we should be clear that apparently he found out at 9 p.m. the night before, and then the next morning at 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. he gave an all hands to the whole team. And apparently it was very emotional, which was eventually leaked to Sky.
Did you watch it?
And I did watch the clip.
It was... It looks like... We kind of had this thought that like he was not well liked around the factory. It kind of gave the idea of no, he was actually very well liked around the factory.
I think it's the subtle difference between he was well liked and he is part of the family, so to speak, but people were very disappointed with the recent shenanigans that he performed. And I think it's a little bit about separating the art from the artist, but I do think that he was well loved up until very recently, and it's not like he the issues that he hath caused for himself by diddling around did not cross the egregious line into absolutely getting cancelled and put in prison, which I think the team probably would have been very happy to get rid of him at that point. So.
Yeah, but it's kind of one of those like, when do you fire your coach sort of things? Because, he's brought Red Bull a lot of success. One of my favorite internet memes post Christian Horner being fired is this is like the first day in Kimi Antonelli's life that Christian Horner hasn't been the Red Bull team principal. It's the first day in Ollie Behrman's life where Christian Horner hasn't been the Red Bull team principal, just to give you an idea of like, and like you think of how long even Toto, who seems like a staple of team principals, he wasn't the team principal until 2013, 14. It was Ross Braun before this. So like, you think of how long these people generally last at those jobs. And it can be a real revolving door. I think there's definitely some not great stuff with like Adrian Newey leaving and some of the other talent they have lost throughout the way. But there's always the saying in sports of like good teams don't they just reload. They don't have down years. They just reload. And it seemed for a while that Red Bull was just able to just reload. And it will be interesting to see how this goes forward, because whether you like Christian Horner or not, and I can definitely understand both sides of that argument, can another team principal challenge other teams like he did with Renault when it was like, your engine is crap and we need a better engine? Like he was able to put a lot of pressure on Renault when he needed to. Honda, in a sense, I think a little bit of like, this is what we need to do. By all accounts, the Red Bull engine for next year is utter garbage. Yeah. So, and a lot of this is, we've talked previously, is what Dietrich passed away. He was the head of Red Bull. He and Christian and, the other guy, Helmut Marko, they all seem to be really well and on the same page. And obviously there's now some sort of power vacuum. And it will be interesting to see if Red Bull is able to stay at the top, or if this is the beginning of their long or their slow descent into the midfield.
Are they reverting to mean? Because the history of that team has not been of great success. The Red Bull period has been very successful. All the periods before that. What was it? Jaguar before that. And then, who was it before that?
We can look it up.
Jackie Stewart Racing.
Yep.
It was at one point. And then it was somebody else before that. While you look up that stat, I should provide some additional context and stats around this. Supposedly he is still employed by Red Bull, but he has no operational concerns. So technically he has not triggered what is supposedly a $9 million a year get-out contract termination fee. And his contract was to run until 2030, so this was a decision potentially not taken very lightly. 2, why now? Apparently, very recently, the Thai family ownership, which is managed by like 3 trusts, but only one of them is controlled as a very small amount. It's only 3%. That 3% was assigned their votes, but not ownership, to the Messerschmitt's family, to giving them full 51% control, which enabled them to pull the trigger. That suggests what has happened, and they've been trying to pull this off for a while. In terms of what moved, who took what, where, and why, they do have a new CEO team principal. That is Lauren Mekies, who was previously running Red Bull and the Red Bull Racing Bulls. That's it. And Alan Permain, who was the sports director of the Racing Bulls, is now the team principal of the Racing Bulls. But he was also at Renault for a previous time, many years before that. No reason has been given.
So, just a quick question that you might not know, but I'm curious if you know. How come Louis didn't need any gardening leave?
Who?
The new guy. Isn't his name Louis?
Because he's in the same
Lauren.
Same company, basically. Remember, it's Red Bull Racing. He was in Red Bull Racing.
Sure, but he, in theory, knows a lot about how the Racing Bulls are developing their car, and thus he should need his gardening leave because they don't like principals jumping around like teams.
But that is a contractual convention. That is not by regulation.
Oh, okay, I thought it was by regulation.
No. That's the subtlety. Is you're like, oh, I don't want you leave because you're going to take it to the other team. But it's okay. From a regulatory perspective.
It's okay from like so. There's nothing to stop like Toto from working at Ferrari tomorrow if everybody agrees.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
That makes sense.
Now, Toto in his contract with Mercedes may have gardening leave that states that if he chooses to leave, he cannot work for another Formula One company for X number of months, years, or whatever it is. But it's not a regulatory concern; it's a contractual concern.
Right. So I did look it up, and it was just Stewart Racing. That was the first one, Jackie Stewart's team, and then Jaguar. But in their debut season in 1997, I have to think Rubens Barrichello has maybe the craziest like race season of all time. 17 races, 14 retirements, a 13th, a 14th, and a second.
For Jackie Stewart Racing?
For Jackie Stewart Racing in 1997, Rubens Barrichello, Australia, retired. Brazil, retired. Argentina, retired. Imola, retired. Monaco, second. Spain, retired. Canada, retired. France, retired. Great Britain, retired. Germany, retired. Hungary, retired. Belgium, retired. Italy, 13th. Austria, 14th. Luxembourg, retired. Japan, retired. European, retired.
That's terrible. But also, of course, it's Monaco where he got second because nobody could overtake.
Right, but also just like retire, two, retire, like what a day or what a season,
man. Well, you see, they turned it around after what was it, 3 years as Red Bull, 3 years with David Coulthard, and then they turned it around, right?
Right. So Stewart Racing, their best result was in 1999. They finished fourth in the constructors. Then it went to Jag. Complete Formula One results. Then they were back to 9th, 7th, and then they were sold to Red Bull, or then they became Red Bull Racing. And then, when Red Bull took over, it was with David Coulthard, and it was 7th, 5th, 7th, and then starting in 2009, it was 2nd, 1st, 2nd, 4th, 2nd, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, 3rd, 4th. So, they've really shown as soon as they got to the 2009 era.
Yeah, after Newey had a year to fix the company / car. Yeah.
But that, I would say this is more Newey's legacy than Red Bull's legacy.
I agree with that.
Which is, he's pretty good at building those cars.
Yep. Well, we'll find out in the Aston Martin next year.
But it's also interesting, like even in 2016, when you think of that year as like, yeah, the McLaren or the Mercedes were fighting each other, but Vettel and the Ferrari were right there. It's like Red Bull still finished second in the driver or in the constructors that year.
Yeah, pretty good. So yeah, we don't know what's going to happen. No reasons given. Did he lose Max? Apparently not, based on the news this weekend where he says he's going to stay with it. Was he just screwing up too much, or did people just decide they didn't like the cut of his jib anymore? I wait for the tell-all book.
Yeah. It's interesting to see how this happens. It's always going to be interesting to see who thinks they can do a better job than the team that it was going. You look at like Ferrari when that whole brain trust fell apart. They've been almost nowhere since. Don't tell the Ferrari fans that. Yeah, it's tough.
Yep. Although Lauren Mackey's this weekend, he got a win and a 4th place, and Yuki finally started to drive more reasonably.
Yeah, it sounds like that there were parts being held back for Max as potential spares, and they were given to Yuki as upgrades.
Shocker. Who'd have thought that was a bad idea? Which suggests yet again that there was definitely the fact that Horner had certain biases within the team that he didn't want to give people what they wanted to give.
Yeah, but to be fair, like, I actually don't think that's the worst strategy, given that you were already so far off the constructors. Like, maximize everything towards the drivers and keeping Max, and just, the rumors are already that like Yuki's out of the team next season, things like that. So, there is no point in throwing everything at the wall when any sort of cash that you might break that you're not going to be allowed to spend for developing the 2026 car, which is super important.
Yeah.
So I understand.
Shall we talk about the other side of this conversation?
Max and Toto vacationing together.
Kissing in a YACTH.
Good spelling. Good job.
Yeah, that's why I wrote it down. Yeah, they were in Sardinia together.
Allegedly.
Also,
allegedly.
Allegedly. There were 2 planes with tail numbers that were owned by those people showing up in the same location at the same time. I do hope that Max turned off location sharing with Christian Horner when he did this from his iPhone.
I would love if it was just like all an elaborate ruse and like they flew their planes there and then just like met in Belgium or something.
Yeah, or just turned up and were like, we're not talking about the thing, we're just cool friends and just, catching some drinks, enjoying the weather, all that good stuff. It's very suspicious. But apparently nothing has happened, and apparently he didn't trigger his exit clause, and he's been quoted as saying, I want to stay at Red Bull. And then just after the race today, supposedly the Dutch journalist who knows all of the things going on in the Verstappen camp said that Max is confirming that he will be there for 2026. The suggestion is that apparently he's been given a clause that will let him get out at the end of 2026 if he wants.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of makes sense. I think Christian Horner actually even said something along the lines of like, it'd be foolish for Max to like sign a long-term contract with the team going into 2026. It makes a lot more sense to see like who did get 2026 right and then move in 27. I think all of this is like, doesn't make the Mercedes boys look very good. I think George is still missing out on his big contract that he seems to want. Kimi does not seem to be the second coming of Mercedes that they think he was.
Cantonelli.
I mean, he's
young.
He's so young. Like it's unfair, I think, how much pressure they are putting on Kimi Antonelli.
And I hope that the team itself is not doing that, and that it's about everybody outside the team and the team's being reasonable. The story was that George was offered a 3+1 contract, and then apparently he didn't take it. Which actually, a 3+1 is actually pretty reasonable
for George, especially.
Duh. But related to that, Toto was quoted as saying in one of the press conferences that his drivers will be very happy and comfortable going into the summer break. Now, that can either mean they're all about to get contracts, or they're both about to get fired and they'll be very happy because they don't have to deal with this shit anymore. Which is hilarious.
I mean, do you want your drivers hungry or fat and happy? I think I'd want them hungry and ready to race.
I definitely need them not to be fat, because that means that they weigh way too much and take too much lap time off. I need them to be skinny and concerned and anxious.
This seems like a good time to plug that in the summer break we'll be releasing our F1 movie review podcast. So you have 2 weeks to see the movie if you haven't, if you want to be caught up, or if you don't care about spoilers. Yeah, in 2 weeks you'll get a podcast about it.
It'll be deep and insightful. I believe that is all of the spicy drama for the 3 weeks, I think.
We had almost the entire Tour de France in the meantime between F1 races. And
was there anything spicy in the Tour de France?
I would say no. It was a good example of why I don't like the Tour de France, because overall it was kind of boring, because Tadej Pogacar is just a generational phenom talent, and he proved he's a generational phenom talent.
Did he win this year? Don't tell me about last year. I'm still watching last year.
Yes, he won.
Okay. Where was Jonas Vingegaard this year?
Second.
Okay. Well, there we go.
Yeah, I mean they're both really good, but I guess the spicy take would be that Visma is the Ferrari of bicycle racing.
That's kind of good, actually.
They are tactically inept in at competing,
but yet sometimes like a stop clock is right twice a day. So, okay.
Because they do have some really good riders, and but eventually, it's not great.
So on to our occasional segment, Does Blank Still Have a Job? I felt I had to dig deep to find someone who should be fired. And I went with Franco, which is why is Franco still driving around. And I say that not necessarily because I think Franco's really bad and shouldn't be.
Why is Lance Stroll still driving around?
Okay.
Or Fernando Alonso. They were at the back a lot this weekend.
So I'll give Fernando the benefit of the doubt. But I will say that Stroll was really interesting because he started out the race reasonably far up, like 17th or something, or 16th.
Ooh, reasonably far up, 17th.
He's driving a tractor. And then he went all the way down in the wet, and he's supposed to be a rainmaster, and he just kept getting overtaken. But then he put new tires on, and then he went forward. But there was a moment that I questioned whether Fernando got a radio call, because at one point Fernando went past Lance on dry tires and then immediately gave the spot back.
It sounds a little bit more like he was running a dry setup for a wet race.
Possibly. But yeah, I don't know what Franco's doing. I'm surprised, given that they fired the other guy, what was his name, Jack Doohan, after 5 races. I'm surprised that we're another 6-7 races on top of that, and they haven't fired Franco. Maybe they're waiting for the summer break.
Maybe they realized that it's not a good way to handle Formula One drivers, because they had almost the exact same. They had almost the exact same race record for their times in the Alpine.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird.
You know what I couldn't help but think when watching this race today?
Okay.
Is how different Oscar Piastri's life would be if Alpine had a competent legal department.
Oh, yes. I agree with that. Beautiful move. Mark Webber knew what he was doing.
Right. But, like, it's also just insane of, like, how did that happen? Like,
imagine if Lewis had stayed with McLaren.
Yeah.
Imagine if Seb had stayed with
Red Bull
and Max had come up. Can you imagine that?
Who would you let go of, Seb or Daniel at that point?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it would be dependent on the performance. You should say that you know, if you want to boost my story, you should say that you keep Seb, fire Daniel. He can go to McLaren like he always wanted to.
Yeah, but actually maybe what happens is you end up in a situation because Seb and Daniel are racing each other. Daniel, for the 1 year they were together, had the measure of the 4-time defending world champion. Maybe Danny Rick goes to Ferrari.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Wait, now you've got me thinking. So Max is a 4-time champion and he's not going to get this one?
Max to Ferrari confirmed.
Yeah, guaranteed. Also, Max continues that points out that Red Bull, it's all about the car. It's not about the driver.
Max and Charles would be an amazing team pairing.
Yeah.
Because I actually think they do really get along well.
I think they respect each other in a way that basically nobody else on the grid does right now.
Yeah, and I think they actually get along well.
Yep.
Yeah, but we have talked before, and there's some evidence that, like, Charles is the only other driver Max respects.
Mm-hmm. Which in some respects, makes no sense at all. But
they have such a history of racing together, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Should we talk about the sprint race? Because it was a sprint race this weekend.
Well, so we're not going to talk about sprint qualifying?
I suppose. I put that in qualifying because I was lazy.
I mean, it's either that or we can talk about K-pop Demon Hunters, because I think that was better than
we will
the
get
races.
To that. That's a very important section that I do want more details
on K-pop Demon Hunters?
Exactly. But we need to get to the other stuff first. Okay.
All right.
So we had sprint qualifying where they go around in circles but a little bit quicker and they have tire restrictions, and everybody did it and it was fine and everybody's exactly where you'd expect them to be.
Which I totally forgot it was also a sprint weekend. So I opened up my phone Friday morning and I'm getting sprint qualifying results and I'm like, huh.
Who'd have thought?
Okay. Oh, Lewis is out in sprint qualifying 1. That sucks for Lewis.
Have you seen his lap where he got screwed up?
Yes, you mentioned he was going really fast and he was ahead of Charles and then he got screwed up. And I would just like to say this is the same thing with Kimi Antonelli was going really fast at Monza when he was in the FP1 and then he crashed it. It's cool, you can do a really good job going really fast, but if you don't complete the lap, it's really not worth it.
But here's the subtlety. If you watch it, the gearbox and or engine has a moment and locks his rears to the point that Lewis said, I don't think in my entire career I have ever locked the rears in that way. And you can hear on the audio on the actual qualifying, the engine makes a almighty crunch noise right as the real wheels lock.
Well, he did end up taking practically a whole new car before the race, so that would make sense.
Yes. So he ended up out in SQ1 and was very sad and ended up in P18, I think it was. It was terrible.
I can't really see him as the Niki Lauda character in the movie Rush of It's a Shitbox.
Yeah. But
it's a Ferrari.
Actually, we did miss that from the thing. He did 2 important things this week. Our great GOAT, Lewis Hamilton. 1, Lewis posted on his Instagram his post-workout exercise, and he hasn't done this in 2 years. That was point 1, which means Lewis is trying to do something important. And then 2, in his pre-race interviews, he says, I refuse to leave Ferrari without winning a world championship.
He's going to be 80.
He's going to be 80. And as part of that, he also said that he's been working really hard and is extremely committed to making the team because the team is going to make changes, including that he's been sending notes and letters to the different department heads at Ferrari to tell them how to fix their crap and what he needs in the car for 2026.
I feel like he spent too much time in a Jerry Bruckheimer movie recently.
It's quite possible. Not quite that thought, but my thought was, he's got free time now that he's finished editing the film and doing the promo crap. Now he can go back and concentrate on driving in the car.
Well, this does a little bit of a preview of our F1 movie. It does feel a little bit like Sonny Hayes coming in and being like, I'm going to help y'all not be such losers. Like,
yeah. It
does feel a little bit like that.
But that's what Michael Schumacher did too, so.
Fair enough. And what did he ever accomplish?
Nothing. Apart from falling down a tree hole when he shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wear a helmet, kids.
Yep. So that was qualifying. Should we go straight to the sprint race?
Yeah, it was. It
was a race.
As I would say, as a bit of foreshadowing, Max showed Oscar the way. Yeah. Max had a great start. Clearly set up for the dry. Came past him. Oscar could never make the pass with DRS, and then nothing else happened. I think there was one other overtake. So have you,
Lewis, I think, actually.
Yes, it was Lewis. Have you? And then the Merc boys were doing their best to keep Max in the Red Bull seat by just not outperforming him. Have you seen the the F1 visualized things on like social media of like somebody who kind of shows the gaps between all the cars and as they're spacing out?
Yeah.
So I was watching that, or I saw that, and I thought it was funny that they missed the Alpine that like joined 2 laps later and was just running around getting testing data. They weren't included on that. I think it was. Was it Ocon who was doing that?
It was Alpine.
It was Gasly.
Gasly. It was Gasly because Ocon's driving the Haas.
They're the same driver. Both the Haas's were in the points, I think, for a little bit.
Yeah. I dispute the fact that Ocon and Gasly are the same person. They must both be French, but Ocon's an asshole, and Gasly actually knows what he's doing.
Okay.
Should we move on to qualifying?
Yeah. They just seemed like the same person because when they were both in the Alpines, they were just like always doing the same shit.
Yeah. Yes, qualifying. Lewis screwed it up again. Went out in Q1 because he got track limits by mere...
Allegedly.
I'm surprised they didn't dispute that.
Did you see the onboard?
I did, and it definitely looked like he was...
It was close.
It was close, but he'd gone off. Everything else was exactly what you'd expect. And
except Yuki being in Q3, that's new.
True, yeah, Yuki got into Q3, and I think he qualified P7 or something, right?
Every Red Bull or Red Bull Racing driver was in Q3.
Which is the first time this has happened since 2012?
Something like that's a lot.
Yeah. It's strange that it's happened this twice. I'm just surprising. If I had a dime for every time it happened, I still wouldn't be very rich.
No.
Then we went on to the race. I'm going to dovetail with your previous statement about Yuki by saying then Yuki didn't drive very well in the race at all and ended up in P.
He could have driven worse and at least given us a safety car or something.
That is very true, especially given the fact that there was wet. It's only the fourth time in the entire history of Formula One in a wet race that all cars finished.
Boo.
Yep.
Well, to be fair, I think the FIA put their hand on the scale a little bit on that because, they probably could have started a half hour earlier.
So you know why the FIA made this choice?
Because they knew Max was on a wet setup and they wanted to favor the McLarens?
Exactly.
Great.
Exactly.
After he did a dry setup at Silverstone, he put on a wet setup for Spa, and it was wet, and then they didn't start the race.
He had a dry setup for the sprint shenanigans.
He did.
And then changed it.
I mean, that's clever. The sprint race was dry. The main race was wet. You got to change your setup.
Yep. But this caused them to wait a whole extra hour for no particular good reason for the track to be close to basically the crossover point.
Yeah, that was the only kind of bad thing.
Yep. Thank God for fast forward.
And we talked to the West Coast and fast forward. Thank God.
Yeah.
We spent a little time talking about this before we hit the record button, but also just by the nature of how long the lap of Spa is, you don't get the, we'll hang it out for one more lap to see how it goes nature of say Austria, where it's, a minute and it's, So kind of everybody came in on the same lap anyway. The only person who did a great job was Lewis. And I think it was a part of because, that lap is so long, Lewis changed and everybody went, oh crap, Lewis is already going so much quicker. Box, 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 box.
the question here is, did Ferrari make the strategy call? And if they made the strategy call, was it because Lewis gave them an Ian bending last time after Silverstone train wreck? Or did Lewis get on the blower and said, I'm coming in?
I haven't seen anything, but I have to think Lewis made the call.
Yeah, I don't think he made the call real time. I think he did make the call by having a conversation with them beforehand. So
Yeah.
credit to him. Yeah, it was such a long lap. I don't understand why it's a sprint race. It is a great lap. I love it. It's great in the wet. It's great in the dry.
I saw a clip from Oscar on like the sim before the weekend of he parked it in, I think it's No Name, the No Name corner. And like, if you turn the car properly, you can see La Source in like turn 1. It just shows you like how crazy the elevation is around Spa.
Oh, interesting.
That from like that complex there.
Yeah.
Is it No Name? I think it's No Name.
That's the one after the Kemmel Straight that goes round and it turns to the right.
It's what, turn 10? Yeah, turn 11 is No Name. So yeah.
Okay.
It's there.
Yep.
I know it's before Puan.
Which I always think is a gravy. But never mind.
That's I think it's close to poutine, which would be
exactly cheesy gravy with chips. So yes, there was a race, and they started off, and Lando was on pole because somehow he put a great lap in, and then Oscar, having been shown the way by a certain Max Verstappen, decided that Lando should have a terrible start out of La Source on the first corner after a rolling start, and then absolutely mullered him down straight. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lando Norris is a good racing car driver. I do not think Lando Norris is a great racing car driver, and I think we saw some of that today. The
Lando era errored because he errored traditions.
Yeah.
So the conclusion is there were 3.5 mistakes made by Lando Norris in this race. One was the one I aforementioned where he didn't quite get the right start out of La Source and he got overtaken by Oscar.
And that was big because that gave Oscar the ability to get in first for dry tires on the crossover point.
Yep. 2 was that he got the half point, is he kind of got mullered by a slightly dodgy stop, I think, and ended up losing about half a second in his pit stop, which wasn't necessarily impactful. And then he made 2 other errors. One was he came into where was it? He went off at Puan on like lap 30.
The gravy corner.
The gravy corner.
It was not gravy.
It was not gravy for him, and that lost him he would cranked it down from 9.5 to 7.5 seconds, and you're like, great. And then he lost 2 seconds, and he was backed up to 9.5. And it took him 4 laps, maybe 3 laps to start even incrementing it down again. And then right when he was getting 3.5 seconds with like 4 laps to go, and you're like, maybe Lando can pull this off. Lando locks it into La Source, and it goes really wide. It doesn't go off the track, but goes really wide to keep it on the track, and then loses about another 1.5 seconds, and that was it. We're done. And then Piastri on his 29 lap old tires rolled over.
The mediums that might not go all the way to the end, that went perfectly fine to the end.
Yeah, they look pretty good actually when he pulled off the track. They actually looked pretty good.
Oh, they like even then when Lando started to close in, he was starting to set personal bests. So he had saved tire. Like I think he was almost baiting Lando. Like he is. That McLaren works very well in free air. He knows how to drive it very well, and it's just a whole thing of if there's a driver coming behind you and they have to take out 0.8 a lap and they're only taking out 0.6 a lap. Like, we're not even talking about like if he had started to get into his teammates' dirty air, would he been able to come around? Like, he never even got there. And I think with about 10 laps to go, granted, I know it's a long 10 laps at Spa, it was like, this is not happening. There's just not enough race left for Lando to claw back and get past Oscar.
Yeah. Speaking of dirty air, Lewis was right on. Who was it?
Alex.
Yeah, Alex Albon, who did a great job. P6, good job, Alex.
Yeah.
Lewis was back by like 2.5 seconds, and then decided he'd had his Wheaties, and then for like maybe 8 laps was in DRS and just kept getting closer and closer, and just couldn't quite get past it. It was funny watching him down the straights. Even with DRS, the Ferrari closed ever so slightly, and that Williams is really slippery. We've always said it's slippery, but now it can go around corners too. So it's pretty interesting. But other than that, the race was kind of boring. I think Lewis managed to get 11 overtakes, but I think he possibly did like 5 of those on track, because just as the track was about to transition, Lewis zoomed past everybody, like 4 people. And then after that, he did another 2 or 3 once he got the new tires on, and then he stalled out, and that was it. And there we are. Anything else about the race?
No, I'm seeing some stuff come in that apparently Max has said he's racing for Red Bull in 2026. So looks like Looks like the dream is dead.
No, he's baiting the Mercedes for more money. Okay. Driver of the day / who couldn't wait for
you
it to
can
be
get
over.
paid more if you don't have to have your contract bought out.
That's true.
Yeah.
So, my driver of the day is Nico Hulkenberg for returning to consistent performance after his career was dedicated to getting his third place position. Now he doesn't give a crap anymore.
He had one of my favorite quotes in the last 3 weeks is that he would trade all of his podiums for an F1 race win.
So that took me a moment to wait a minute, hold on.
Yeah. He would trade all of them for one F1 race win.
Have you changed your opinion about whether Nico Hulkenberg should remain in Formula One?
No, I still don't think he should.
Okay. It is interesting to note that team, the Sauber, have now P6 in the standings from being terrible for the last 3 years. Maybe Audi do know what they're doing.
The Sauber and the Haas are actually looking pretty okay these days. Like, they're not the joke of the midfield anymore. They're kind of competitive in the midfield.
That's the whole problem right now with Formula One is everything is so close. And so
except for everybody to the McLarens.
Yeah. But even then, I feel like they are better, but it's not hilariously better.
It's not hilariously better. Like they have, I think, pretty much clinched the constructors at this point in time. One of them will win the drivers, barring them crashing into each other for the rest of the season.
We should discuss that in Championship Watch because I've got a key stat in there.
Oh, great! Because I haven't done stats at all for this episode.
Nope. My driver who couldn't wait for it to be over is Kimi Cantonelli because he had such a terrible race. Or possibly Fernando Alonso, who decided at some point he was just going to start cutting corners. What does he think this is, 2018 Abu Dhabi?
Yeah. That's confirmed that Alonso's out next season.
Yeah, probably. I do wonder whether that's actually what's going on.
Yeah. So, my driver of the day would be, I think I just got to give to Oscar. Like, he made the right move, and then he just was... I understand why he can frustrate people, but he is just so calm on the radio doing everything. It's like he's so calm. It's amazing.
And calculating. I love watching him drive because he does the thing that drivers need to do, which is it's not just drive the car, it's drive the race.
Yeah.
And he's thinking about what it means and all the blah, blah, blah. And good for him.
It's what all the greats do.
Yep. What about your driver who couldn't wait for it to be over?
Well, up until the pit stop, for the whole weekend, I was thinking Lewis Hamilton.
Okay.
Because he had a terrible sprint qualifying, he had a terrible sprint, he had a terrible qualifying, and he was kind of not making a lot of progress in the first half of the race. So until the pit stop, I was thinking Lewis Hamilton. So for the weekend of the whole, I still kind of want it to be Lewis because he had, through kind of no fault of his own, a really bad weekend, which is kind of the definition of doesn't want it to be over.
So have you heard his quotes about his performance?
No.
So there's two quotes that he had. One was yesterday, where he came through and said, what was it? He was interviewed and he said, "I am extremely sorry for the team. It is nobody's fault except mine. It's a terrible weekend. It's a total blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, oh, poor Lewis. And then today, post-race, which I'd like to know, he did actually get driver of the day. Everybody thought he did a great drive.
Deserved.
He was quoted as saying, "It is a weekend to forget, and I must do better."
Then I'll keep my Lewis Hamilton as the driver who couldn't wait for it to be over.
Yeah, I totally can understand that. Which team's debrief did you want to be in? I'm going to go straight with Ferrari because I want to know how they're going to debrief of how did we get the strategy call correct? This is not what we're supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we did something right. How do we revert back to the me?
Well, to understand how you're performing well, you have to understand what caused you to perform well. Yeah. See? Analysis, self-reflection, something Ferrari doesn't have. Who would you like to be in?
McLaren could be interesting just because of how down on himself is Lando Norris going to be, and that could be interesting.
Yeah.
Red Bull could also be interesting, I think, just from the fact that GP wasn't there this weekend again, and it's the first race debrief without Christian Horner.
Yeah.
So I think from that aspect, it's, if you're Max, you're looking around the room and you're seeing some new faces, and maybe you should see some new faces with a Mercedes contract. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. If once you've seen one new face, you might also keep going.
Yeah. So I think both of those would be interesting debriefs to sit in on.
interesting. I could agree with the Red Bull one. That makes much sense.
The Williams could also be interesting because that was a story of like two very different races with Carlos and Alex, of Alex being all the way up in P6 and Carlos like trying to just stay on the track.
I do think it's interesting to consider that Lewis had a pit lane start because they replaced all his car. They also gave Carlos Sainz a pit lane start and replaced most of his bloody car too.
Yeah.
And yet somehow, I mean, I get that Lewis was actually making forward progress. I don't think he would have made it to P7 if he hadn't done the pit stop. He might have made it to like P11 or something like that. But Carlos got stuck in, what, P17, P14? It was terrible. So, championship watch key stat, and the one that I think everybody knows that is the most important one to consider. How many points do you need to score to be able to beat Oscar Piastri? In the case of Lewis Hamilton, 14.5 points per weekend for the rest of the season to beat out Oscar Piastri. Nobody, this is the important fart, the very important fart. The important fart here is that nobody has been mathematically eliminated from winning the championship yet.
So 14.5 points, that's pretty much, he needs to podium the remainder of the season. Mm-hmm. And Oscar needs to not finish every single race.
Close.
That's pretty much the ask.
Well, 10 through 6 is like, what, 10 is 1 point.
13, third is 15 points, right?
Yes, and number 1 is 25.
Right. So he essentially needs to be third place for the remainder of the season.
Yeah.
With Oscar not getting any more points.
Well, Oscar can get more points. Oscar has to finish higher than 6th.
Lewis hasn't exactly been collecting the third places at this point in time. So.
He's collected himself. He posted the workout video. He sent the letter.
You know what I'm
suggestions.
saying. You know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying,
yeah.
but you got to give it a chance. You don't ruin my hopes. So basically at this point, as you stated earlier, unquestionably, I'm pretty sure it's one of the McLaren boys getting the championship, and we know which one I'm rooting for.
Lando.
Sure. Let's go with
do you consider Lewis still a McLaren boy?
No.
Okay.
No, he only won one championship with them, and that was because somebody else gave it to him.
Ooh. So, any other spicy takes and rumors?
My spicy take and rumor is Max wants to keep people thinking that he might have to extract concessions from Red Bull.
Who gave it to him? Who gave it to Lewis?
Timo Glock.
Oh. No, Timo was on the right strategy. He's said this before.
That's what you would say if it was a cover-up.
Yeah, but he was P7 going into the rain. He ended P6. He made the right call staying out. He improved his spot by 1.
I didn't say that it didn't look like that, but what actually happened is that he handed it to him intentionally on purpose.
But if he pits, if Timo pits like Lewis did, Timo's even further down and Lewis wins anyway.
But Timo didn't have to let Lewis pass.
I don't think Timo let Lewis pass. I think Lewis had that much more grip.
Yeah.
It's Interlagos. It's wet. It was.
Anyway, Max wants to keep people thinking that he might have to get concessions from Red Bull. So what he's doing is he's trying to stay close enough so that he doesn't drop out for his contract thing. It's just to keep the story alive.
I think the bigger issue here is that you have to. I don't think it's about keeping Max at Red Bull. I think it's about keeping Max in Formula One.
Oh, I agree with that. Yes, absolutely.
That is the harder task that I think any team, including Red Bull, has going forward. Is because let's say 2026 is a terrible car. Let's say it's absolute garbage, and he can trigger his exit clause. There's nothing saying he's going to another Formula One team.
Who says he's going to not trigger it after the August break because he's in 4th and just decide to quit this year?
Well, George would have to win in Hungary or something, and he would have to not finish or something trigger. But still. But I think it's pretty much locked in. Max is going to race with Red Bull in 26. But I think the biggest thing is, during the whole drama, which maybe we should have just done a drama podcast about Max to Mercedes, because Helmut's case to Max was like, you're not going to get the sweetheart deal to do all these other things that we let you do if you go race for Mercedes, because he likes the sim racing stuff, things like that.
But
I don't think that's true, by the way. I think
exactly.
Yeah.
Because if you're Mercedes, you're like, do you want to do
you want to do Le Mans?
Do you want to do Le Mans? Do you want to do DTM? We've got that for you too. We've got some other. We can think about getting into WEC. I'm sure that wouldn't be too hard for us with our cars. We could totally do it. They've got the money. They've got the skills. They've got the wherewithal. Versus Red Bull's like, oh, I want to go and do Le Mans. What are you going to do? Drive the illegal car around? You can't do that.
See, a Mercedes-Benz C-Class V8 supercar in Australia. Let's do Mount Panorama.
Exactly.
Team up with Danny Ricciardo.
Exactly.
How much would you love to see Danny and Max do Bathurst together?
So therefore, There are only 2 teams.
Oh, I can't tell you how much I would love to see Danny and Max do Bathurst together. That would be so cool.
There are 3 teams that Max could go to, and really it comes down to 2.
Mercedes.
There is one Mercedes for the reasons, Ferrari for the same reasons, and McLaren kind of because they do have a WEC team, so they can do Le Mans, and then they could do GT3 and DTM.
And McLaren also has an IndyCar in if he wanted to try to do the Triple Crown.
Yep, exactly. Do you have any spicy takes, or should we roll into predictions?
K-pop Demon Hunters was better than the Belgian Grand Prix.
Okay, you're gonna have to explain this to me now since it's appropriate section.
Okay,
what is K-pop Demon Hunters?
It's a Sony animation movie on Netflix that my son is obsessed with,
and it's called K-pop Demon Hunters.
It's called K-pop Demon Hunters.
Okay. Is it a musical?
Yes.
I can't watch that. I hate musicals.
Do you like K-pop?
I don't actually know whether I have any feelings about K-pop at all.
They're very catchy songs.
Okay.
The general premise of this movie is that there are demons trying to steal souls from people in our world.
Okay.
And that every generation there is a group of K-pop girls. There's a K-pop girl group that unites the world to help create a barrier that prevents the demons from stealing people's souls.
Okay, so that's the Jesus metaphor.
Sure. And they sing pop songs and kill demons.
Do the pop songs kill demons?
No, the pop songs prevent the demons, but the demons, in order to counter the girl K-pop group, create a boy K-pop group to then battle against the K-pop Demon Hunters.
I'm sorry, I genuinely thought you were about to say they created like a metal band, and that would make so much more sense. But no, K-pop,
like K-pop boy band, yeah, like BTS, yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, okay. It's very fun.
Your child has decided he likes the beats.
Yeah, and the colors and everything else.
Okay,
because he's only like 13 months old, but he loves it.
So I'm gonna guess when you're driving places now, you're just gonna have to start listening to various bits of K-pop.
No, probably not.
Okay. So you're saying I should watch this?
I think it's fun. It's not bad. If you go to Google and you search for K-pop Demon Hunters, there's a little bit that scrolls across the top that says couch.
And that will make more sense if I watch.
If you watch the movie, it will make sense too.
Okay, perfect. So rolling from important international musicals, let's talk about predictions for Formula One Lenovo Hungarian Grand Prix 2025.
Is it that Lenovo?
Yes, it is that Lenovo. It is the people who make computers of some descriptions. My suggestion is that Oscar will hand the win to Lando on the last lap.
Boo.
Well, he will pretend to, and then as he drives past, he will flip him off. And this is all as payback for last year, where Lando gave Oscar his first win and made it a bit of a first win because Lando basically handed it to him. So, kind of sucks. My second one is Lewis will take pole but finishes P7. Leclerc will finish P6, who qualified P5. Because that's the only place that Ferrari can finish. Is P5 and P6. Except today where they got a podium. 2 podiums in 2 weeks.
I was thinking about this during the Belgian Grand Prix, and I think it's a good prediction for the Hungarian Grand Prix, is another driver, probably George, will prevent Max from being on the podium. Because Max really is like in the 4th best car, but no other team is consistent enough to prevent Max from being anything other than a top 3 driver. So it's just going to be this carousel of people who like finish ahead of Max that like prevent him from either getting on the top sip of the, unless the car is truly on pace for a certain race. It's just going to be this carousel of drivers who prevent Max from finishing. And I think for Hungary, it'll be George.
That's interesting because George this week, or just after the race, said he is going to have a big meeting with Mercedes about the drop in performance of the car. Clearly, they will pull their socks up and get the car better for Hungary.
Right. Will anybody go bowling into turn 1?
Kimi
goes bowling? All right, so we'll say
yeah.
Kimi does a Bottas impersonation.
1, Bottas is clearly there trying to help him. 2, Kimi's gone bowling before. 3, it's the most appropriate place for it to happen to relive his predecessor.
All right. That's all I got.
Okay. We, as always, are awaiting your feedback at our wonderful email address of feedback@tinfoilhelmets.com, where you should let us know your conspiracy theories, your feedback, that I've also previously just mentioned. I'm going to repeat it again. Feedback, you should send it, and your wants. Also tell your friends to like, listen, rate, and subscribe to the podcast where we talk about things that aren't related to Formula One. Peace.
What's the podcast that things aren't related to Formula One? Because this one kind of is.
Yeah, but we spend a lot of time talking about things that aren't, and we've got a movie review coming up.
It's a Formula One movie.
Sure, but it's movie review.
Did they change the intro this for Belgium to be the Hans Zimmer soundtrack?
No, but they did post it on their YouTube channel.
Yeah, I did see the edit, and I kind of just skipped through the intro, so I don't always watch the intro. So I was like, did they actually make the change, or did they just?
And it worked. It does actually kind of work. It's not quite as dramatic.
Well, no, because I mean, it's not round ball rock. We've talked about that before.
We have. It's not quite that. So
few things are round ball rock.
Yes.
All right. See you at Hungary. It's not that there's not enough money in it. It's because like DVD sales just don't happen anymore. So like if you had a movie that's say even $25 million to make, you're gonna do another $25 million on print and advertising to advertise the movie. So if you're a producer, you're into the movie for $50 million, and then you're sharing with the theaters 50%. So you have to make $100 million in your movie before you earn any of your money back. So, but in the world of like when Blockbuster was a thing and Hollywood Video and DVD sales, like, sure, you make the box office, but if you only do 50 million in box office, that's fine, because when you come around to like all the DVD sales, that'll be for, video store rentals and things like that, you're getting almost a second box. Yeah. You're getting a second post off, or almost a second, as much, if not more, than what your initial box office was. So, you didn't have to make all your movie up front because there were going to be DVD sales and everything else. But that's actually like it's like this weird, like 20 years of movie industry, like where all this happened, because that like Top Gun was the first VHS movie that was like low priced, because the studio was like, they wanted to sell VHSs for like $100 because they wanted to make up all this money because they thought people would go see, because the way movies used to work before that was like they'd rerun them in the theaters. So it's like, okay, well, I need to make up for the fact that I'm not going to get like your, $10 6 more times or something like that, times a family of 4, we'll call it $100. So the only people that could afford VHSs were like video rental stores. So then Top Gun, and there's like this like 5-year window of VHSs from like Top Gun, and I remember Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade had it as well. There's like a preview, like a commercial in front of the movie. The one for Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is a Diet Coke commercial, which it's honestly a really great commercial, but it's like that's where Top Gun started, and they used that to offset that cost. So then a VHS, instead of being $100, was like $15, which that was a lot more reasonable for people to buy. But then like you think about like Top Gun, like when streaming started up, like 2010 is probably really when this started to shift. Like it's only a 25-year window, but you think of like the movies that came out in those 25 years, that's like all the great 90s rom-coms that everybody always loves. But that's because like they could produce these movies for somewhat cheap, because they knew they were gonna, because like the rental industry started picking up. So it's like, so like that's where you get all the rom-coms and all the early stuff that like kind of the artsy films that like sparked Matt Damon's early career, like Rounders, Good Will Hunting, things like that. Just all these kind of movies that are kind of artsy but also kind of fun, but like but we don't need to make all of our budget back. And then you look at like today, of all movies have to be these big set pieces because everybody's trying to make their money back in some way or the other. Yeah, but Hollywood's like really bad at it, because you looked at like Barbenheimer was a big thing where Hollywood's like, yes, Barbenheimer, we should do this again in some way, and they like, I forget what they put. It was like, no, you guys took the wrong lesson. It's like we need a Mattel cinematic universe. It's like no, that's not what we were trying to tell you. But also like the counter programming of Barbenheimer like worked so well. Somebody tracked like who came up with it, because it was like they're literally opposite movies. Like they could not be more different. And like these kind of cinema podcast YouTube channels and stuff are like, oh yeah, Barbenheimer, like yeah, we're gonna do both of them. And a lot of people were like, that does sound really fun. And then you did both of them. And Hollywood always learns the wrong lessons.